real tough guy. He's got the scowl of an athlete. This is a man, says Liz Wheeler. He won a women's golf event because he's pretending to be a woman, but he's a man, period. Maybe a joke here at the end of the period. Maybe Liz Wheeler of, I don't know, Newsmax? Could be wrong. But we flip on over to the Daily Mail for this story. Transgender golfer Haley Davidson wins Florida tournament and is now set to receive one of 5 women's places on the prestigious tour aimed at providing growth opportunities for female players. 30-year-old transgender golfer born in Scotland. I'm sighing because of what this is. Because how many times have we had to deal with this so far? And it's already 2024. 30-year-old who was born in Scotland, now lives in Florida, has long been aiming to become the first transgender woman to earn a Ladies Professional Golf Association tour card. If you're not familiar with golf, you got to win some tournaments on the amateur circuit to get a card. And then you can go to and enter any of the pro tournaments across the world, which is a pretty sweet life, I'm not going to lie. Davidson won the NXXT Women's Classic at Mission Inn Resort and Club near Orlando, Florida. Securing victory gives Davidson access to the Epson Tour, which is awarding exemptions to the top 5 players. I don't know if that's a surgery exemption or what that means. But Haley Davidson obviously came out on top here. A lot of Asian women golfing in this. The tour is a qualifying tour for the LPGA, the tour card which Davidson has been aiming for. News of the win sparked anger online, with many highlighting how Davidson would likely be able to hit the ball further than a player born female. This is unequivocally true. I saw a video the other day on Barstool of Tiger Woods driving a ball like 300 yards from his knees. Okay, that's where the difference lies in this. And it's very simple to me what's happening. And we're going to get to more on why I think this sort of stuff is still happening in 2024. I think it's very simple why this is happening. The women need to keep refusing. You're getting some traction with the NCAA women in colleges in the U.S. saying, hey, teacher, leave those kids alone. We don't want to swim with guys anymore. It's not really a problem in other sports. The WNBA isn't letting guys in it. They'd beat the guy up, I'm pretty sure. Wouldn't allow it. Now, I think women's hockey would probably allow it. But in North America, we're standing up to the guys they took our jobs, trying to take our sports jobs, right? But generally across the world, the things aren't seen the same. Now, in England, the cycling ladies said no to guys. But in general, stuff like soccer, stuff like hockey, stuff like apparently golf, the women are a little bit more reluctant to be mean in that sort of sense. Even in women's volleyball, I've seen a couple of dudes. Those stories have come up over the past few years in Europe. The women are a little bit more reluctant than the gentlemen to be mean. And the reason is for that is, it's tough to be a female athlete as it is. There's not much money in most women's sports, golf being one of the more attainable ones for women where they can make a lot of money, just like tennis. They can make a lot of money in that too. And they probably don't want to raise any eyebrows. They probably don't want to draw any negative attention. They don't want to risk anything. That's why Megan Rapinoe in soccer and Quinn, which we can bring up for you if you'd like. Quinn, our single named non-binary soccer player from Canada, they go the opposite direction. They say, hey, what about more transgenders? What about, having one name and forcing everybody on my team to use pronouns? That's what Quinn does. Megan Rapinoe dyes her hair pink and she's 38 years old. She can't even run anymore. She's tearing ACLs on the field and she's like, now it's time to retire. But you see what I'm saying? They went in the opposite direction. They don't want the negative attention that comes from saying, hey, man, get out of my field or get out of my dressing room. They don't want to do that. So they go the opposite direction. I think women need to be caught up a little bit on that front. And I think that once they start doing that, then it'll become much easier. Once you get like 10 super famous female athletes to say this isn't on. This is not going to happen with us. We're not accepting this anymore. Then it's going to become easier and easier and it'll become the norm. But that's not exactly what women are doing. And I wanted to check out what is going on with women's sports right now. Like, what are they focusing on? What are the messages? And lo and behold, one was thrown right in my face. It's the Canadian women's soccer team. And this isn't meant to be shade, everybody. This is just meant to be, we're still doing this. I saw a news story about the women's Canadian soccer team is going to be competing in what's called the She Believes Cup, presented by Visa. The She Believes Cup is a women's soccer international soccer tournament. It's an invitational, started 8 years ago, and it's a bunch of women getting together for female social justice. Now, I'm not saying that women shouldn't be promoting themselves, but what I am saying is this whole we're promoting ourselves as a gender still. We're still doing things like it's 1985, like we're really lacking in female representation and things. We don't have our own sports, but this started in like 2014 or 2016, excuse me, and it's, here's what it says. A major component of programming around the tournament itself, its purpose is to empower young women and girls using 3 core pillars of She Believes confidence, career, and community. The summit includes panels, fireside chats, and breakout sessions designed to provide event attendees with hands-on experience and tools for success. The event program features various female speakers from women in STEM and professional athletes. So you've got a soccer tournament here. Good on you. You're professional women soccer players. But at the same time, our tournament is about how women are improperly represented. And also about science for some reason. So on one hand, it's too mean to say, hey, guy, you shouldn't be playing in our sports. But on the other hand, we're also going to complain like it's 1993 that we don't have enough women's sports. You see what I'm saying with this? Guy playing my sport, cool. Also, we don't have enough women's sports attention. It's been the argument for the last 8 years. And what gets triggered by this? What spawns all of this stuff? It's the same stuff. Once Trump became president, an economy was created of victimhood. It probably existed before. It'll certainly exist, by 2032 when it's Barron Trump versus Gavin Newsom 3 or something like that, or Ben Shapiro versus Cenk Uygur in the Senate. But the fact that this economy exists means stuff like this can exist in contradiction with one another. Like I said, Megan Rapinoe talks about how there's not enough money in women's soccer. They have a soccer tournament, and what's the soccer tournament about? Women not having enough opportunities. They get the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, to pay them a base salary, no matter what, like $30,000 per person to appear in a tournament overseas, and then they can't sell it. So all these things exist in contradiction to one another, especially men playing in women's sports. But did you notice that at the end there they said also women in STEM and professional athletes? So we're using the idea that there's not enough representation in women's sports to also say there's not enough women represented in the sciences. So I thought, let's take a look at this. They've been saying for years that there haven't been enough women represented in STEM. They've been saying for years that, it's all because of the opportunities given to women. They're not told they can be in sciences and everything. And if they were just told, then they would be in it. And here's what I found. So this is from the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. This is one of the points they had. Overall, women accounted for 29.3% of STEM federal workers. Science occupations had the most, with almost 50,000, while math occupations in the federal sector had the fewest number, 6,500. There are significantly fewer women in technology and engineering than expected. So we have 2 stories here that you're going to see. The first story is that we've been pushing this for years and years and years. And unless you're going to argue that women are still told that they can't be in science for some reason, even if they want to, they can't be mathematicians, even though they want to. If you still believe that to be true, then telling them the other way that they can actually do it still hasn't worked. But that's just one source. Other sources say that women are, lo and behold, really participating in STEM. Biological students or scientists, 46% are women. And this is as of, I think, 2022, if my memory is not serving me incorrectly. Chemists and material scientists, 40%. Computer and math occupations, 25%. Engineering and architects, 16.5%. 34%. So more than a third of women make up STEM jobs. And then we have another source. 1980 to 2022, we have this all going up. Biological scientists, almost 60% women. Then we have the purple one, chemists and material scientists, 46% women. Computer and math occupations, 26%, and architecture and engineering, 16%. Now, on one hand, we're saying, you know, women need to be told they should be involved in STEM stuff, and it's not working. We're telling them all the time, and it's not working. But they're also telling us they're not being told enough. So which is it? It doesn't matter what any of these outcomes are, really, because as it stands, as of 2022, a lot of women are in these fields. Some of them are majority women. Some of them are half women. Some of them are a third. And it's not, no pun intended, rocket science here. Clearly, women like biology and chemistry more than they like math and architecture. That's being shown across these graphs. It's being shown across everything. This one says it's a third of women. The other one that we looked at said 30% of women, almost the same. We're off by about 4 or 5% here. So what is this soccer tournament talking about, really? It's the economy of victimhood and oppression. So they've got this tournament, the She Believes tournament. It's telling women, we need this tournament because we're underrepresented in things. And we need this tournament because little girls are still told that they shouldn't go into these things. Well, clearly they are. Clearly, at least a third of the people in the STEM fields are women. So either they go into it on their own, or the messaging has worked and now they're going into it. So where does it stop? Do we go to 70% women? Do we want to eliminate men from science? Because there's no opposite version of this. There's no, men can do it championship where our pillars for the tournament are gym tan laundry or whatever. And we're not going to stop until we see equal representation in personal support workers, nurses, and junior kindergarten teachers. That's just not going to exist. Either women are being told quite enough that they could go into the sciences to the result that they're doing it a third of the time compared to men, or they just don't want to do it any more than they're already doing it. I don't know what point and at what metric we start to see, the language change back to normal, back to I don't know, 2005 stuff, where we start to say, everybody just do what they want. In the 90s, and I hate to be one of these people who say it was a different time. It just was. You know how people argue how there's like not all this representation in movies? There always was, right? In like the early 90s, Eddie Murphy had movies and Richard Pryor had movies, and nobody counted how many black people or white people were in a movie. They were just sort of there. Just like that, nobody counted how many women were in STEM. And at the same time, I don't recall ever being in a classroom and saying, please, Sally and Jill. Those are the best names I could come up with. Please, Sally and Jill, you wanted to be a scientist? You wanted to be a mathematician? Shut up, bitch. This stuff never happened. It's just that once it became okay to start saying, the colonizers and the oppressors, that's when everybody started seeing a space in the market for them. That's when a lot of people started saying, hey, I could be a diversity officer and get 70 grand a year and get all these grants where I can pay my friends and other people to teach classes or be on the diversity panel for the NHL. That's what created all this. And that's why there's a She Believes Cup. Because where there's marketing money to be dished around and a good story behind it, a good narrative, there's a person who's going to take advantage of that no matter what the statistics are. 47% or 57% of women in biology and 46% of women in chemists. That's not enough. We need to take it more. We can go to the moon with that stuff. So that's all I'm saying. This isn't meant to be a, hey, what's the problem here? Why don't these women shut up? It's just that there's better things to tackle here, people. You got guys literally trying to take the sports away from you, literally trying to take women's spots in one of the only athletics competitions where you can make lots of money and travel the world and have a good time and, sweat it out in a visor and have a slave that carries around your clubs for you. Men are trying to take that away from you. And at the same time, concurrently, you're having a soccer tournament that says, hey, there's not enough women in science where we're represented by at least a third. Come on now. Come on, bruh. This is an explanation for why there's so few women in science. We're going to scroll down to the, so few in quotation marks here. We're going to scroll down to the executive summary and we're going to blow it up. The number of women in science and engineering is growing. Yet men continue to outnumber women, especially at the upper levels of these professions. In elementary, middle, and high school, girls and boys take math and science courses in roughly equal numbers, and about as many girls as boys leave high school prepared to pursue science and engineering in college. So right away there, you've heard the answer. They're put in the same classes in high school, and they graduate high school with the same amount of preparation to go into these fields. What's the difference once you leave high school? Can anybody in the audience tell me what the difference is between a person who's in high school and in college? You're an adult. You have the freedom to choose. You don't get to choose what your prerequisites are in high school. You don't get to choose, if you take a second language. You don't get to choose if you have to take 4 math classes or not. You sort of just have to take whatever they tell you have to take, and then you get your electives after that, right? And then after that, you get to choose what you want to go to college for. Don't tell this author. She says, yet fewer women than men pursue these majors. Among first-year college students, women are less likely than men to say they intend to major in science, technology, engineering, or math. By graduation, men outnumber women in nearly every science and engineering field. Remember, see the logic used there. Nearly every science and engineering field. So in some of them, women outnumber men. Yes, because they're choosing it. And in some, such as physics, engineering, and computer science, the difference is dramatic, with women earning only 20% of bachelor's degrees. Women's representation in science and engineering declines further at the graduate level and yet again in the transition to the workplace. So here's what she thinks happened, right? Drawing on a large and diverse body of research, you've got to use the word diverse. This report presents 8 recent research findings that provide evidence that social and environmental factors contribute to the underrepresentation of women in science and engineering. The rapid increases in the number of girls achieving very high scores in mathematics tests, once thought to measure innate ability, suggest that the cultural factors are at work. 30 years ago, I don't know why we're spelling out 30 instead of using the number. There were 13 boys for every girl who scored above 700 on the SAT math exam at age 13. I don't know how we're getting to this spot here from what women choose in college as their majors. Today, that ratio has sunk to about 3 to 1. This increase in the number of girls identified as mathematically gifted suggests that education can and does make a difference at the highest levels of mathematical achievement. While biological gender differences, yet to be well understood, may play a role, they clearly are not the whole story. We don't understand gender differences yet. You guys? But this is a study somebody did of women going into science. And like I said, we've reached a third of women in all the STEM fields. And in one of them, they represent almost 60. In another one, they're 45 or so. And this woman says, well, they're getting taught the same things in high school. And they're graduating high school with the same capabilities to go into the same majors. But men are still doing it way more. This must be because of sexism. At 13 years old, women are just as smart in math as men, or girls and boys. But for some reason, this is where we get Italian here. But for some reason, they're not choosing it. What are we doing here? When are we going to move on from this? When are we going to move on from everybody's mean to me? That's all I want to know as a society. At what point can we just go ahead and say, you know what? Um, boys seem to like architecture and girls seem to like the biologies, and that's fine. Let's women need more sports opportunities. Okay. Should we let the men take them? No. Like, when are we just gonna be able to be honest? And that's why we started with the Sean Strickland stuff and we end with this. The Sean Strickland stuff is extremely honest, makes people angry. We get to the end of the show here. We talk about stuff that's actually true and women being in science at a clip of 33% of the fields, and we don't want to talk about it. The truth is making people angry for some reason. Hearing the stuff of the realities makes people angry because they start to feel like they don't have this opportunity to be charlatans, to run charades on people, to make money like this. That writer you saw, his bit, as you can clearly see, is being like, I'm an ally. How dare you say that about trans people? And the other guy, how dare you say women in the kitchen and gun in every hand? Without that, they don't really have a personality and they don't have a way to get women. That's the, again, we're being mean here. This is the mean cast. That's the reality here. Without, if we start including these statistics, and we start showing this study that women just don't want to go into these fields, the She Believes Cup and the marketing team that put that idea together to get money from all these corporations from Visa, those jobs go away. Lying is a very powerful marketing tool. I don't know if you've seen any commercials lately or eaten any Tide Pods, but lying is a very powerful marketing tool. And when you start pointing out to people that, hey, certain things are innate, certain things exist, and certain truths exist, then there's no more diversity officers.
Turn it up, Jordan.